Okay, without said, we can start them our study for this morning. And as I said, the Word of God we can never get tired of the Word of God. It's always something that we learn, that is something different that we can understand. And this one, when I was studying, when I was researching this, for me it was amazing. For me it was a great blessing to see how God works with us, right? Last week we study. It was a pause. It was like a I forgot the intermittent, but intermission from the letter of love, right? From the letter of love, the series of studies that we were having from John, it was a previous study that we had just to go forward, and this is also the same. To continue in this prospect, okay? So I invite you to go to the book of Mark, chapter 4, verse. Let me go to Mark. Let's go to Mark, chapter 4, and we will understand the context. The title is The Preacher of Gadara, but first we need to get a little bit of context, okay? It's always good for us to know history, society, people, for us to make any conclusions. We need to understand what were the things before, for us to understand also what Jesus was talking for them. Okay? So let's go to Mark chapter 4, and starting on verse 35, we have the storm on the lake. And verse 35 starts saying, "And the same day when the even was come, he saith unto them, Let us pass over unto the other side." Keep his command in mind. It will be really important for us this morning, okay? Let us pass over unto the other side. And verse 36, "When they had sent away the multitude, they took him even as he was in the ship. And there was also with him other little ships." Keep also this in mind. "And there," verse 37, "and there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship, so that it was now full. And he was in the hinder," verse 38, "hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow." All of these words that are on bold, keep in mind. It is really important for us to understand after, okay? "And they awake him and said unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish?" And verse 39, "And he arose and rebuked the wind, and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said unto them, Why are ye so fearful? How is it that ye have no faith? And they feared exceedingly, and said one to another, What manner of man is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" So the first thing we see here on verse 37, Jesus commanded them to go where? To cross the sea. But where were they? Take a look to this map. It's really important for us to understand geography as well. I don't want to get away from this. Let me just... Okay. Can you see? Can you all see? Okay. So they were right here, right? Jesus had just finished not just finished, but it was in this region, close to the Mount of Beatitudes. He was close to Capernaum. The place where he was Gennesaret. Gennesaret. It was close to Capernaum and Gennesaret. They crossed the Sea of Galilee, which is actually not a sea. Okay? It's not a sea. It's a lake. Okay? They call sea because it's common, because it has a huge size, as the size of the sea, let's put it this way, but it is not a sea, it's a lake. And they crossed the lake towards Gergesa, or towards Decapolis. So all of this area is Decapolis. Okay? Decapolis is a Greek-Roman league with 10 cities. Some scholars, they say that there were more cities, like 12 cities, 12 to 13, I'm not sure, but what I'm sure is that they at least 10 cities there. Okay? that region was not, we didn't have many Jews there. Okay? We have some synagogues. We did have some churches there, but mainly of them were not faithful ones. They were not Jews. They were people. And we will see why. Okay? And verse 36, if you pay attention, verse 36 says that they were not alone. They left, they sent away the multitude, they entered in the sheep, and there were also with him other little sheep. So imagine this. Jesus was tired of people because they were pressing him. It was a great commotion there. Okay, let's go to the sheep. And the people just start following him. They enter in their sheep as well. And there was a lot of people following Jesus. And verse 37 says that arose a great storm of wind. Okay, what kind of storm was this? A storm of wind. Important for us. Was it raining? No, it was not raining. Okay? Did it have lightnings? No. Neither. Just winds and a lot of huge waves. And we will understand why. How was this possible? Let's go back to the map. Okay? So here we have a little strait. You see in blue? Here's Jesus. Jesus there crossing the lake. And this is the Jordan River, if I'm not mistaken. Or at least the beginning of the Sea of Galilee. And they are crossing the lake. So imagine, all over the place is not plain. It's not flat. You have mountains all around. And here is also a little piece of water, a little part of water that goes in the midst of mountains. So when the wind blows, it creates pressure, which causes the waves to be angry. So imagine, as you see here, the winds are blowing, and between this middle is creating pressure, which moves the waves and creates all this storm. Okay? This is important also for us. It created the waves, the storm, and arose fear in the disciples, just because of winds. Can you imagine? So I want you to take a look to this map as well, and it's a little video. I think it will come up. I don't know for the recording, but we can share that after. So take a look. So here we are going towards the north, okay? From to the Decapolis. It's just mountains. And look at the waves. The waves could reach up to 3 meters, would be like, 10 feet. 10 feet of waves. Imagine the disciples now in these waves trying to control the boat. They were dying. Look at this. It is not just a simple lake. It's something else, right? And where was Jesus in this condition? Verse 38 says that he was sleeping. And look, Mark is so ironic. Mark is so sarcastic that he says that Jesus was sleeping on a pillow. He was so peaceful. He was resting so bad. He was sleeping on a pillow. Can you imagine now their fear, their anxiety, their despair? And Jesus was sleeping, right? And what did they say? Jesus, carest now? What are you doing? Don't you care about us? Look, we are dying here and you're sleeping? What you doing? And Sister White in Desire of Ages says, absorbed in their efforts to save themselves, they had forgotten that Jesus was on board. Now seeing their labor vain and only death before them, they remembered at whose command they had set out to cross the sea. In Jesus was their only hope. In their helplessness and despair, they cried, Master, Master! But the dense darkness hid him from their sight. Their voices were drowned by the roaring of the tempest, and there was no reply. Doubt and fear assailed them. Had Jesus forsaken them? Was he who had conquered disease and demons and even death powerless to help his disciples now? Was he unmindful of them in their distress? Master, why are you sleeping? Don't you care about us? Who are we in our side? Are you mindful of our condition? Unmindful? But Jesus still answers them. Verse 39. And he arose and rebuked the wind and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And what happened? The wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said unto them, Why are ye so fearful? How is it that ye have no faith? Jesus is not saying, you have just a little faith that you cannot believe. He's saying, you have no faith? What happened with your faith? And they feared exceedingly and said one to another, remember this answer, remember this question. What manner of man is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? And also, Sister White puts also another condition for them, situation, right? A hush fell upon the disciples. Even Peter did not attempt to express the awe that filled his heart. The boats that had set out to accompany Jesus had been in the same peril with that of the disciples. So they were in the same condition, right? Terror and despair had seized their occupants. But the command of Jesus brought quiet to the scene of tumult. The fury of the storm had driven the boats into close proximity, and all on board beheld the miracle. In the calm that followed, fear was forgotten. The people whispered among themselves, What manner of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? What was their question? What manner of man is this? This is a really important question for us now today. Although I don't want to spend much time in context, because our preaching is about Gadara and the Gadarenes, context is always important. All right? It's always important for us to understand context, society, culture. Again, what was their question? What manner of man is this? So look at this screen. This is the Sumerian cosmology. What is cosmology? Their view on the earth. Okay? So we all know that the earth is a globe. Right? Sister White also says that. Is a sphere. They didn't believe this. I mean, the Sumerians. Okay? I'm not saying disciples. I'm saying the Sumerians, the ancient Mesopotamian civilizations, they believed in this. So here you have three heavens of the elder gods, of the younger gods, heaven of constellations, what we see. The earth is flat, it's like a piece, like a dough pizza, right? And surrounding the earth, you have the salt water sea, okay? Underneath, there's fresh water. Underneath, they had fresh water. Here they had the gates to heaven, okay? Here they have the 7 gates to Arkala, or the netherworld. It's important for us to understand what were they thinking, because what was their question again? What manner of man is this? Okay, so imagine Jesus had seized diseases, healed people, he had cast demons, had bring people up. He brought people up from dead. But why were they so amazed with this miracle? Had they never seen a miracle before? Yes, they did. Yeah. They saw Jesus doing miracles. But why were they so amazing? Okay, so the Sumerian view of cosmos, or the universe, they believed that the deep waters, you see, that are surrounding, they believed that they had waters. These deep waters were dangerous and filled with superstitious symbols. One example, we have the Leviathan. Okay, do you all know what is Leviathan? Right? We will go back. But for them, it was the monster of the waters. The monster of the waters. Okay? They also believed that the gods, when they would go there to the deep seas or to the primordial ocean to fight with the monsters, and every day, in order for them to have light again or the sunshine, that God need to gain victory. Oh, so if we have light today, it's because the God gained victory. Oh, and they would praise the God and whatever. But waters was a symbol of fear. Okay, remember this. This is the Egyptian. It's not working. This is the Egyptian cosmology. The same view, almost the same. But here have something different, okay? So this is the path of the sun. You see? The sun arises. This is the middle of the day, okay? Here have a God, here have a God, here have a God. Here's Osiris, another God. They were crazy in their beliefs. But look what is important for us. The path of the sun, Ra, the God Ra, he would go there, the sun, right? Which is God Ha. He would go there in order to have morning another day. He would need to go to the underworld and fight with the serpent. The serpent was there, and he needed to fight with the serpent of chaos. The monster should be fight every night in order for them to have the sunlight. So why were they so amazed when Jesus calmed down the waters?
They thought it was a God.
Look,
He wasn't under either.
Jesus didn't say, I'm God, but he showed them. Look this verse. Job chapter 41, verse 1 and 2. Canst thou draw out Leviathan with a hook, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down? Canst thou put an hook into his nose, or bore his jaw through with a thorn? So why was God saying this to Job? I am the only one who can do this. Can you do this? No, you can't. Can you do that? No, you can't. Only God could do this. Only God could fight with the serpent, could fight with Leviathan and gain victory. Yeah. Even the pagans, even Sumerians and Egyptians believed that God could do this. Okay? And Psalm 74:13 and 14 says, Thou didst divide the sea by thy strength. Thou breakest the heads of the dragon in the waters. The dragon in the waters. Thou breakest the heads of Leviathan in pieces, and gavest him to be meat to the people inhabiting the wilderness. Also, the psalmist confirmed this. Only God was able to overcome the power of waters, the monsters of waters. And Isaiah says the same. In that day the Lord with his sword and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. Okay, so this we all know that is prophecy, okay? Prophecy for today, for what we study this morning. Oh, last Sabbath. But think that this is the Bible. How can I put this way? Let me put this way, okay? The Bible speaks in our language for our culture, okay? For their culture, let's put this way. It's God's word, but inspired and written by man. So God is using man's word to explain his power, okay? So we understand that this is the Armageddon, or this is the war that God will fight. But this is also showing the power of God. Just the Lord can do this. Only God has power to control the waters. That's why they were so amazed. They were shocked. When Jesus said, "Peace be still," it was a declaration of his divinity. Okay? With this said, we can go to the miracle of Gadara. Okay? So let's go back to Matthew chapter 8. Matthew chapter 8 gives us just a summary of what happened there. But we will study according to Mark. It's just for us to get a little understanding on this verse. Okay, Matthew chapter 8, verse 28. Starting on verse 28. And says, And when he was come to the other side into the country of the Gergesenes, Gergesenes, there met him 2 possessed men with devils, coming out of the tombs, exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass by that way. Verse 29, and behold, they cried out, saying, What have we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time? And there was a good way off from then a herd of many swine feeding. In verse 31, so the devils besought him, saying, If thou cast us out, suffer us to go away with the herd of swine. And he said unto them, Go. And when they were come out, they went into the herd of swine. And behold, the whole herd of swine ran violently down a steep place into the sea, and perished in the waters. Remember, where did they go? In the waters. And verse 33, and they that kept them fled. So they were gossipers. Look what he says. And went their way into the city, and told everything, and what was befallen to the possessed of the devils. And behold, the whole city came out to meet Jesus. They were also gossipers. Let me see what is happening there. Right? And when they saw him, they besought him that he would depart out of their coast. Okay. Who are these 2 men? This is important for us to understand. Let's go now. The same story is the same story with more details. Mark chapter 5 says this. Okay, let's go to Mark chapter 5. Remember that Jesus was crossing the sea. Okay, this thing happened. He calmed down the water. Everyone was amazed. And when he stepped his foot on ground, on the earth, let's say this, they came. So Jesus calmed down the waters. They were amazed, and these possessed men came. Okay, let's go to Mark chapter 5, verse 1, starting on verse 1. Okay, and they came over the other side of the sea into the country of the Gadarenes. And when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwellings among the tombs, and no man could bind him, not with chains. Here we have a couple questions. I don't know if you notice. Matthew said 2 men. Mark said 1. What is this? Okay. There are a few possibilities. Sister White also says there were 2 men. But one of the possibilities that people, they didn't count women and children. Okay? So it could be a man and a children, or a man and a woman. Okay? We don't know. We cannot presume. But it doesn't matter much. What matters is his miracle. Okay? The other question is that Gadara, or is that Gadara? Right? That's why I put here. Because in Matthew, Gergesenes, and in Mark, he says Gadarenes. Let's not take time to understand this. It's long discussed in even scholars. Okay? Because if you take a look, I didn't put the map here, but I can show you after. It's a huge distance between these 2 places. Okay? But this is not what important for us, not now. Because what really happened in not the city of Gadara, or not in the city of Gadara. It happened in the region. Okay? In the region of Decapolis. This we know for sure. Okay. So how was their condition? Who are they? Okay? Mark chapter 5, verse 3 says, who had his dwellings among the tombs, and no man could bind him, not with chains. In verse 4, because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and fetters broke in pieces. Okay, the verse is saying him, but let's change for theirs or them, okay? Neither could any man tempt them. And always night and day they were in the mountains and in the tombs, crying and cutting themselves with stones. Verse 2 says that they were demoniacs. They were bound within themselves. Can you imagine this condition? you have your body, but you're bound. You're in this prison of your mind. There was not even a moment for peace. There was no room for change. They could not change themselves. Verse 3 says that instead of having a house, where were they living? In the tombs. Just imagine their condition.
In the cemetery.
Any terror movie, everything you see today could not be compared what they were facing there. Not even one movie today. In verse 4 says that they were bound with fetters and chains. But it was worthless, useless. They broke them in pieces. In verse 5, also gives us understanding that it was a life of storm after storm. A tempestuous life. Imagine their condition. Sometimes we are bothered with parties over there or over there or over there. People like to party, and we are bothered with music or smell, whatever. These citizens, they were being bothered by crimes. Like, can you imagine their condition? How could you live like that? They're crying aloud every day, all day long. It was a nightmare for the population there. And also, we know they were cutting themselves with stones. Their body, instead of reflecting the image of God, what we studied last week, right? Instead of reflecting the image of God, we're reflecting the effects of sin, full of scars, new wounds, blood, nakedness of mind and spirit. Can you imagine their condition? But Jesus sets free. And what happens next? What says in verse 6? Mark chapter 5, verse 6. When they saw Jesus afar off, they ran and worshipped him. Okay? How did they recognize Jesus? How did they know that was Jesus? What did they know about him? I don't think they knew much. They were from Decapolis. Jesus was from Jerusalem, from Israel, right? It was not was a huge difference between them, the distance. But when they saw Jesus, they felt themselves in the presence of the one who could free them. Right? And what did they say? They came to what? To worship. And what did they say? And cried with a loud voice and said, "What have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of the Most High God? I adjure thee by God that thou torment me not." They came to worship Jesus, and the only thing that could come out of their mouth was cursing. They came to worship, pleading for help, but Satan used them to repel Jesus. Right? What have I to do with thee? And he confessed that Jesus was the Son of God. This was the most interesting. Because no one of them did. But the devils, they did so.
Know who Jesus is.
In verse 8, he said unto them, "Come out of the man, thou unclean spirit." And he asked him, "What is thy name?" And he answered, saying, "My name is Legion." We can understand Legion or these verses with a different mind. Okay, but this is not the purpose of this study. If you all want, we can, in the afternoon, I don't know, or whatever, just go over this story again to understand why Mark is saying Legion. Okay? But he said, "My name is Legion, for we are many." And he besought him much that he would not send them away out of the country. Keep this answer with you. Okay? But let's pause for a second. What was the disciples' question? What manner of man is this? And why did they ask that? Because they were in the middle of a storm. And Jesus calmed down everything. Jesus just calmed the sea. What manner of man is this? What were the disciples looking for? They were looking for peace. Not? Am I wrong? They were looking for peace, but they could not find. Look what Isaiah chapter 57, 20 and 21 says. But the wicked are like the troubled sea, when it cannot rest, whose waters cast up mire and dirty. And verse 21, there is no peace, saith my God, to the wicked. And why? Why? Look what Sister White says. Sin has destroyed our peace. While self is unsubdued, we can find no rest. The masterful passions of the heart, no human power can control. We are as helpless here as were the disciples to quiet the raging storm. These souls, these demoniacs, they were also fighting against themselves. They came to worship Jesus, asking, pleading for help, but Satan used and spoke in their place. They were fighting to have what? To have peace. And also a new life. They did not know Christ, but they faithfully hoped that these men would calm the storm of their lives. This is what they believed. And the next paragraph says the following. But he who spoke peace to the billows of Galilee has spoken to the word of peace for every soul. However fierce the tempest, those who turn to Jesus with the cry, Lord, save us, will find deliverance. His grace that reconciles the soul to God, quiets the strife of human passion, and in His love the heart is at rest. Now we can go back to Isaiah and see what he says about this. Isaiah chapter 32 verse 17 says, the work of righteousness shall be peace, and the effects of righteousness, quietness, and assurance forever. Assurance of what? Assurance of what? He's saying the effect of righteousness, quietness, and assurance forever. Assurance of what? Assurance of His power. Assurance of His greatness. Assurance of His salvation. This is what they were looking as well. They were looking for. Okay? Let's go forward in our study. This is interesting. Okay? What happens next? Verse 11 and 12. Mark chapter 5, verse 11 and 12 says, when now there was nigh unto the mountains a great herd of swine feeding, and all the devils besought him, saying, send us into the swine, that we may enter them. Remember that in the Decapolis there were not many Jews. Most of them were Gentiles, unknown, pagans. That's why they were growing, they were raising pigs. Okay? For Jews, it was an extreme offense. But how many of them were there? Let's take a look to the economic impact. It's important also. Nowadays, to raise swines means you're rich. Okay? Nowadays. Imagine at that time. For each one of the pigs, you pay almost $700 daily. Okay? If you'd have 100 pigs, you need to have $69,000 in cash with daily expenses. Imagine, okay, let's go to verse 13. And forth Jesus gave them leave, and the unclean spirits went out and entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea. There were how many? About 2,000, and were chucked in the sea. Okay, so let's do the math. $600 times 2,000, you have an amount of 1,392,666. It's too much even for me to do this math. Can you imagine? They lost today, in the money of today, dollars from today, $1,300,000. Can you imagine? They lost all this money for today. But it was greater. It was a greater loss. This is the scenario under Mark's story. What was Satan's purpose with all of this? Why did Christ allow the devils to go in the pigs?
in mercy, because otherwise they would have cast even the people
Also,
in the sea.
because Satan wanted to make void his miracle. He had just set them free, right? So now, the population there saw their lost and they rejected Jesus. Look what the Desire of Ages says. Meanwhile, a marvelous change had come of the demoniacs. Light had shone into their minds. Their eyes beamed with intelligence. The countenances, so long deformed into the image of Satan, became suddenly mild. The blood-stained hands were quiet, and with glad voices, the men praised God for their deliverance. Jesus had worked such a special change in their lives. They praised God for the deliverance, and now they are listening to his preaching. They sat down and they are listening. And they that fed the swine fled. The verse, right? Mark 5:14 and 17. And in the country, told in the city and in the country. And they went out to see what was done. And they come to Jesus and see him that was possessed with the devil and had the legion sitting and clothed in his right mind. And they were afraid. And they sighed, and they that saw it told them how it befell to him that was possessed with the devils, and also concerning the swine. And they began to pray him to depart of their coast. Now that's too much for me. It was such a huge commotion. All of their family were now, imagine their family. They were raising pigs to make money. They don't have pigs anymore because of a miracle of Jesus. Did you realize? Where did the swine go? To the waters. What meant waters for pagans? It was trouble, problems, fear. So in their mind, it was like, okay, this guy came here, he worked a miracle, but he ruined our lives. We don't have money. We cannot afford to pay the school for our children. We cannot buy food. We are lost. How we are going to live like this? We cannot live anymore. Satan used that moment to make Jesus' miracle worthless. And Sister White says, the manifestation of supernatural power arose the superstitions of the people and excited their fears. Further calamities might follow from having this strange among them. They apprehended financial ruin and determined to be freed from his presence. And let's read until here. We can after go and follow the reference. But also Sister White says that those that were with Jesus in the night before, they said to them, look, this is God. Don't be afraid. He will free you from this. He will help you with this. He is God. He just calmed down the water. Can you imagine? He calmed down the water. He is God. And even them, what did they do? They prayed for Jesus to depart. Their words, Sister Red says, it was without effects. Now comes to play a different character. Not different, but now he's transformed. I don't know his name, but I'm pretty sure he was a preacher. Mark chapter 5, verse 18 and 19 says, when he was coming to the sheep or them, they that had been possessed with the devil prayed him that they might be with them. Howbeit Jesus suffered them not, but said unto them, go home to thy friends, and tell them how great things the Lord hath done for thee, and had compassion on thee. Their greater desire was to follow Christ. The few little time they spent with Jesus was sufficient for them to wish an unceasing time with their Redeemer. But Christ gave them a command to go and teach all they have received. I want to follow you, Jesus. You saved me. You redeemed me. Can I follow you? No, you can't. Can you imagine this? our most desire is to follow Jesus, and Jesus said to you, no, you can't follow me. You have work to do. Go and work. Here was a work for them to do. To go to a hidden home and tell of the blessings they had received from Jesus. It was hard for them to be separated from the Savior. Great difficulties were sure to beset them in association with their heathen countrymen. Now, verse 20. When he departed and began to publish in the Decapolis how great things Jesus had done for them, and now men did marvel. Not only did they tell their own household or neighborhood about Jesus. Where did they go? They went to all the Decapolis, everywhere declaring his power to save and describing how he had freed them from the demons. In doing this work, they could receive a greater blessing than if merely for benefit to themselves they had remained in his presence. It is in working to spread the good news of salvation that we are brought near to the Savior. And Sister White says that the two restored demoniacs were the first missionaries whom Christ sent to preach the gospel in the region of the Decapolis. Do you like geography? Do you like history? Here's Capernaum, where Jesus was, right? Here's the Sea of Galilee. And from Damascus to Philadelphia, it is the Decapolis. They were kind of here. They were like very little here. Where did they go? All the Decapolis. Can you imagine? By foot. We didn't have car plans, whatever. Okay, let's go to Mark now, chapter 8, verse 8 and 9. I didn't put in the screen, but I want you to follow with me. Okay? So this is the story. Jesus left them to work. He gave a command for them to go and preach. When Jesus comes back, this happens. Okay? This is the multitude, the multiplication of the bread. Mark chapter 8, verse 8 and 9. They did eat and were filled. And they took up the broken meat that was left. How many? 7 baskets. And they that had eaten were about 4,000 people. And he sent them away. Can you understand? Can you understand these two verses in this context? When Jesus came back to that region, way after, a very great multitude recognized Jesus. They were waiting to hear Jesus again. It says that the multitude was about 4,000 people. 4,000 people to listen the message of salvation. How many people preached to them? 2. Only 2 people preached into all the Decapolis, and now 4,000 people flocked all around Jesus to receive the message of salvation. I don't know his name. I don't know their name, but they were preachers. What lesson can we take for us today? Is Jesus able to forgive me? Yes, he is. Is Jesus able to heal me? Yes, he is. He healed. He performed many miracles before this. Is Jesus able to transform me? Yes, he is. Absolutely. However, the only safeguard against his power is found in the presence of Jesus. His power is talking about Satan. Okay, if you read the context, it's talking about Satan. Before man and angels, Satan has been revealed as man's enemy and destroyer. Christ as man's friend and deliverer. His spirit will develop in man all that will ennoble the character and dignify the nature. It will build man up for the glory of God in body and soul and spirit. Brother Victor, then, what is the hope for me? What can you say to me? I don't hear Jesus talking to me. Is he sleeping? I cannot see him. I'm also dying. I'm also in a storm. I'm also broke. What can He do for me? When He's going to change me? When He's going to touch me? Well, I cannot do much. Only thing that I can say to you is that He's on board. Right? If you also lost track, if you are in the greatest storm of your life, if you are facing things that you never imagined to face, He still can calm it. He still has power over it. Don't give up. Remember the story? Victor, sin has caught me here. Well, keep running. Get up, keep running. And you keep running. Victor, sin is right here. Get up, keep running. I cannot do much for you. And you also might ask, Lord, art thou sleeping? I cannot see you, Lord. Can't you hear my prayers? Can't you see me, Jesus? Lord, look at me. Look at my condition. Look at the many evil spirits within me that cannot leave me alone. That don't leave me alone. My mind is overwhelmed. My soul is afflicted. I'm tormented. Lord, where is your power? You know, whether He is asleep, whether He is awake, He is still on board. What matters if He is sleeping? Let Him rest there. It doesn't matter. Whether He is sleeping, whether He is awake, He is still on board. Whether you hear His answers, whether you don't, He still cares for you. And He still calms storms. He still heals. He still transforms. He still sets you free. Whether He is asleep, whether He is awake, He is still on board and He will take care of you. Let's open our hymn books and sing hymn number 685. God will